Welcome to the Line Life podcast. I'm Jeff Postlethwaite, Senior Editor of T&D World, and today we're bringing you more stories of the grit, courage, and inspirational teamwork that it takes to be a line worker.
Hi, my name is Amy Fischbach, and I'm the Field Editor of T&D World magazine. Thanks for tuning in to the Line Life podcast. For this special edition, we are focusing on the Trees and Utilities Conference, which was recently in Fort Worth, Texas. Line workers often work hand in hand with tree crews, especially after a storm, and sometimes the arborists are the first on the scene to clear the way for the line workers to restore power. Recently, I flew down to Texas to participate in the 25th anniversary of Trees and Utilities, and I was able to talk with vegetation management professionals, arborists, foresters, vegetation management supervisors, and also vendors that support the utility vegetation management, or UVM, industry. In the future, we'll also hear other interviews about technology and training and UVM, as well as some other voices from the show. But on today's special episode, let's hear from Dennis Fallon, the Executive Director of the UAA, who we are excited to have as a guest on the Line Life podcast. I'm here with Dennis Fallon, the Executive Director of the UAA. And Dennis, how do you feel about Trees and Utilities celebrating its 25th year this year?
Amy, we're really excited about the 25th year, the silver anniversary. This is a show that's grown year after year after year and really recognizes those utilities that have put the effort into trying to ensure that we have trees and utilities out there in our communities, both extremely important for the survival of our communities, for the economic development of our communities, and livability of our communities. So it's outstanding to recognize those utilities that have gone ahead and above and beyond into this environmental stewardship space.
And Dennis, you have about 1,200 attendees this year. How does that compare to years past?
So we're growing about 200 ahead every year for the last few years, which is very nice. So we're 201 ahead right now of where we were when I went on stage. We'll still have some on-site registration as we go. So it's a record-setting year for us, and the show floor shows it. The excitement in the room shows it. We have quite a few people. It's outstanding.
Can you talk about what kind of attendees are here at Trees and Utilities?
Trees and Utilities has a unique audience of everybody from folks that are making sawdust out on the front line, pulling the trigger, whether that's a spray trigger or a chainsaw trigger, working in the trucks, folks that are out doing the pre-inspection work, post-inspection work. And then we've got management all the way up to C-suite. So there's quite an audience and quite a diverse group that come to Trees and Utilities to learn and exchange and connect.
And what about the conference program? Can you talk about what kind of sessions are going to be included in this year's conference?
Quite a few. There's a program committee that does a lot of the work that puts this together. I'm not on the program committee itself, so they put together a real nice program. We've got some innovation in both technology as well as some sharing. We've got a global panel talking about wildfire and vegetation management in the wildfire space. We've got individual speakers that are talking both employee development as well as new technologies, research. So there's quite a gamut that's been pulled together this year. The theme for the conference is the intersection of safety and sustainability. And those themes really come out of the application for what come in for abstracts.
Can you talk a little bit more about that, the intersection between safety and sustainability? How was that chosen as this year's theme?
So the program committee identified that based on the abstracts that came through. The theme just kind of started to pull through and pull forward with the program that was accepted and the folks said what they put into the program. We don't start with the theme, we end with the theme based on what submissions we get and how it all pulls together.
And then what about the exhibit hall? I noticed there were some new exhibitors out there. Can you talk a little bit more about the companies that are exhibiting?
So the exhibit hall is handled by Deanna and the Arbor Day team. So as far as the head count down there, I don't know a specific number. I'll get that information later this week. We're still just at the opening ceremonies this week. But we've got some new folks. So there's some interesting folks that have come in from different areas. One of the folks that we're seeing that we haven't had recently is the local ISA chapter, Texas chapter of ISA is here. They've got a booth in here. We've got quite a few tree firms, some tree firms I haven't seen before. We've got some environmental sustainability groups. We've got some innovators in equipment and equipment sharpening tools. There's all sorts of new folks that are running around, as well as a lot of our old friends coming back and supporting us.
Dennis, now let's talk about technology. How has technology changed in the UVM industry, and what should electric utilities be on the eye out for?
Technology's coming fast and furious, and there's a lot of technology coming out. We're seeing it in the remote sensing space. We're seeing it in the application, just to be able to generally map our facilities, map our assets, be able to map the plant communities within those assets. And when I talk about an asset, really, I look at the right-of-way itself as an asset. Utilities are investing in those right-of-ways to maintain those, so those become an asset for that utility. And we're seeing a lot where mobile technology, mobile computing, we can do work management, work planning a lot faster, a lot more efficient than we could in the past. When I first started, it was all on paper and going that route. We're seeing a lot more in that space. Remote sensing is getting more technologically advanced every day. We're beginning to identify species signatures based on the hyperspectral, with the emittance off the hyperspectral part of the spectrum. So we're starting to see leveraging in that. We're beginning to identify volumetrics. There's all sorts of things that are coming into from a technology space, moving fast and furious. It's exciting.
What are some challenges you think the UVM sector is facing, and how does a conference like this help the attendees to kind of overcome these challenges?
Well, there are a myriad of challenges. We're seeing a change in our climate, which is bringing sometimes more intense storms, sometimes storms at times that we didn't typically have storms. We're seeing weather patterns differently than we saw them historically. That's a new challenge. We're learning to manage through that. We're seeing plant communities different. We've got some invasives on the forefront. Emerald ash borer, for example, marching its way across the country, which can embrittle trees and cause issues out there. Species that's planted heavily after Dutch elm disease came through in the 1970s in our communities. We see a lot of ash trees out there. And then a lot of our states have naturally occurring ash. Then, the same as everybody else, there's a lot fewer humans on the planet. So we're seeing getting workforce attracted to this industry and brought in, and getting people in and up and through is always a challenge. Budget stability, we're looking at, it's an election year, so everybody's a little apprehensive to see what happens there. And that can impact where our budgets go and how those go. And budget stability is a key piece for long-term vegetation management stewardship at a utility.
And I know you started out the event in Fort Worth this week with a Women in Vegetation Management workshop. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, the Women in UVM program is an outstanding program, and I would recommend everybody attend that conference if they've got a chance. This year, Jamie McMillan took the lead on that to help it out. She had a crew that with that. They started with a networking event last night to try to break the ice with folks, and then went into the conference this morning. They've got some keynote speakers that went into the workshop at the beginning. It's really trying to empower women in the industry. Talked about the changes in workforce and the need for more people in all sectors, including the UVM space, utility vegetation management space. We need to attract different audiences, more audiences into this field. And there's certainly quite a few capable and willing women that can work in this space. We want to make sure that they're empowered to recognize that opportunity.
And is this the first time that Trees and Utilities has been to Texas, or has it been to Texas before for the conference? I know it moves all over the country.
There have been other conferences in Texas, other tree-related conferences down here in Texas. We hold regional meetings in Texas fairly often. We didn't this year because we had Trees and Utilities in Texas, but I believe we'll be back in Texas next year for another regional meeting at the UAA.
Perfect. So then you're pulling some attendees from Texas and the utilities around this area?
Yeah, we got quite a few folks that are local, and anywhere we have a conference, we end up doing a local draw, so it's always exciting. And that's why we try to move that conference around, give everybody access to the national conference as often as we can.
Let's talk about next year's conference, because I saw you had already planned the date for that.
Yep. Next year's conference will be in Knoxville, Tennessee. We're excited about that. Get folks out there and try that area. I've not been to Knoxville myself personally, but there's a rich history in that area with the utilities being actively engaged. A lot of forestry goes on in the southeast part of this country, so it'll be a great space. I'm looking forward to learning more about that area of Tennessee and getting to know the lay of the land a little bit.
And T&D World will once again be collaborating with the Utility Arborist Association on another vegetation management supplement in June 2025. And we're very excited about that partnership. So thank you for everything, Dennis. We really appreciate you.
Thank you. It's always great. I love to see that supplement out there, and I think it's great for the utilities and great for the industry as a whole. So I appreciate all the work you put into it, Amy.
Thank you so much, Dennis. For more information about utility vegetation management, you can also look forward to our 2025 Vegetation Management Supplement, which will be published this June in partnership with the Utility Arborist Association. Also, Line Life podcast listeners, I had a special request for you. We are going to do a special Hurricane Helene and Milton themed episode this month to honor all the line workers who responded to these hurricanes, and we'd love to hear from you. If you responded to the hurricanes and can send a voice memo to linelifepodcast@gmail.com, or you can send it directly to me at amyfischbach@gmail.com, and just state your name, your job title, your utility name, and location, and then just talk about where you were working during the hurricanes, kind of what damage or destruction you saw in the areas that you were working in, and how you helped to restore power. And then email those to us. The sponsor for our podcast, Husky Tools, will then send you a free Husky Heroes t-shirt. And then you'll also be able to get entered into a drawing for a storm job, which is a new product that helps to expedite storm restoration. For more details, you can look on our website at tdworld.com. But we wanted to thank all the line workers who helped to get the power back on for the communities affected by Hurricane Helene and Milton. And our thoughts and prayers are with you. And we look forward to hearing from you and sharing your voices on the Line Life podcast. Also, if you're planning on being in Kansas City for the 2024 International Lineman's Rodeo Week, please stop by the T&D World booth to participate in a live podcast recording and be featured on a future episode of the Line Life podcast. We look forward to seeing you in Kansas City soon and hope you travel safely for the International Lineman's Rodeo Week.
This episode of the Line Life podcast was written, recorded, and edited by Amy Fischbach. It was produced by Jeff Postlewaite. That's me. To listen to past episodes, visit www.tdworld.com/podcasts or find us at Podbean. You could also drop us a voice memo or message at linelifepodcast@gmail.com with your comments on this episode. We'd love to hear from you. Please follow this show on Podbean or your favorite podcasting app to be updated when new episodes are released. Thank you for listening.